Hello and welcome everyone, I am Madals and this is some exclusive YouTube content for the ESET UK Masters. It is some hype for the finalists which will be going, well, the finals are going to be happening very soon. So we are just taking a look at what these finalists have in store for us, a bit of their play, trying to get into their mindset, learn a little bit more about them and just generally get everything down to a swish and maybe, just maybe, decide who we're going to be rooting for come the 22nd of March. So, let's introduce the two players. I'm going to start with the blue Terran in the lower left because that is our finalist. It is KrasS from Team Neurosoft, the German Terran, and his opponent this game, up in the top right of Antigua Shipyard, is the red Protoss. It is Shana. So Shana, I'm gonna go with Shana. That seems like it's probably the right thing to say. So KrasS, the Terran, how did he get here? How did he get a finalist seed in the ESET UK Masters Season 1? It is because he reached the finals up against Team Dignitas's Bling at I-47 and the ESET UK Masters 2012. So, because he was the second place finalist, then he got an automatic seed to this event, and therefore we haven't had the opportunity, really, to see him play any HotS until now. So, it's definitely worth a look to see how he's doing, how he's adapting to the new expansion, because a lot has changed. And currently, he seems to be doing okay, actually. And the other things that he's taken part in, obviously he's been doing other things as well while the online qualifiers have been going on. No doubt taking a look at the streams, etc. to get a good gauge of who he could be up against and what sort of strategies he might be having to pull out, what's working well, what isn't, and maybe even adapting his play to try and deal with that. So straight away we see that he's going for that command center first build with the command center as part of the wall off. Very, very nice strategy. A barracks will be added on just to complete that in a couple of seconds, and this just means that actually KrasS now has a good economy going. It's forced cross spawn, so we know he shouldn't be at too much risk of too much early aggression. The only thing you really have to worry about on Antigua is things like Blink Stalkers with a mothership core, because there was a big cliff area, but due to patches and patches ago in the beta, that getting nerfed, as in the research time for Blink getting nerfed, it shouldn't be a massive concern to him. He can get a good number of units out and just then generally take his natural and be pretty darn happy. For Shana, we do see that both gas are down, but no probes in them as of yet, so this could be a massive mind game, or it could be just to get the Nexus out very quickly. Deciding actually if my opponent's getting that command center out fast, I better get my Nexus down fast as well. So this will level things out. We're definitely going to be going into the mid game because neither player is going to be able to be that aggressive until, of course, we get to the mid and later stages of this game. So KrasS, he is actually a really cool guy. Of course, I met him at I-47. He wore his scarf lots and generally just seemed to be very cold in England. Although I don't think Germany's that much warmer. So, but then again, it was November and it was very chilly everywhere, so I can't blame him. And he had a really good tournament. He did very well throughout. He had some good engagements. He had some good fights. The only real thing I'd say is that the competition at I-48 and the ESET UK Masters is a bit stiffer this time. We've got some top European and Korean players coming over, and that means that it's very hard to predict who's going to take the spot. But let us know in the comment section below how you think KrasS is going to be doing after watching this video. Also, there's a big TL thread up. There's one for this hype week where, of course, I'll be casting games from each of the players in the finals and just getting you a bit of information about them and watching a few of their games. So comment in that one. Also, the big master thread about all of the grand finals and that cool stuff where you can find all the streams, etc. So comment on those, subscribe on all the different channels, and go to all the different Twitters if you're a tweeter, and yeah, you get the picture. I'm just doing all the boring corporate-y follow us sort of stuff, but it would actually be good because there's some great content coming out and you really do not want to miss any of it. So what we're seeing now from Shana is the natural base down, the 2 additional gateways on their way out. Meanwhile, KrasS just building Marines and a bunker because Marines are good units still. Arguably, the only thing better for a Terran arsenal than a Marine now is the Hellbat. I believe these games were actually played before Balance Patch 15, where we saw that obviously the Hellbat requires an upgrade from the Tech Lab to more from a Hellion. But this Mothership Core getting pushed back is not going to have too much luck. Did survive though, that's the most important thing, because it is an expensive unit after all, especially at this stage of the game and how early you can get it. So good that that stays up and alive, and yeah, As you've got the orbital commands down, we've got the factory on its way switching, the starport as well, so just teching up quite quickly. The Widow Mines coming out, which is the new addition to the Terran force, and the reason it's really good at getting these Widow Mines out, especially against Protoss, is in the early game, Widow Mines are incredibly powerful. They one-shot all gateway units, so Zealots, Stalkers, and Sentries all go down, kaboom, and as a result of that, it just really means that you can hold off gateway pressure quite comfortably, especially if a Protoss player is a bit careless. You can really weaken a Protoss force exceptionally fast, and that's why a lot of Terrans are favouring getting those out, just getting them in a nice defensive position, because along with the bunker, it just means that you can hold off most gateway pressure fairly comfortably. Meanwhile, the Mothership Core just back now. We've got the Robotic Facility coming up, as well as the Twilight Council. So just more units coming out. The Natural Base is mining quite happily for both players. We do see the Shana just slightly ahead in terms of the worker count, but then Mules for KrasS will level that out and make things very even. The Observer coming out. KrasS getting up stim now. He's got the engineering base, so we'll be able to start the +1 infantry attack upgrades that we're so used to seeing in this matchup very early on. So everything going quite nicely. A couple of Marauders also on their way. A Marine Marauder mine with a medevac is very, very strong. It's a great build for all the reasons I mentioned. Mines were good previously. A Marine Marauder with stim is just great against gateway forces anyway. But for the moment, it looks like KrasS going for drop heavy play. We saw in the other game we've cast for this hype that actually he is really fond of going for lots of drops, really taxing his opponent's multitasking. That's clearly one of KrasS's biggest strengths. Meanwhile, he's also getting up that missile turret to make sure that actually I can see if any DTs could be coming in, although there won't be because it's a Templar Archives. But in come the Widow Mines. And while there is a Photon Overcharge, 2 get buried in the main, 2 are coming down to the natural. Where is the Observer? That is the big question. There are 3 out and 1 now coming over, so Photon Overcharge gets rid of those mines fairly effectively, but Widow Mine burrowing yet again, it will detonate. It's going to get a 1 unit, and it did a good amount of damage as well there, so that is all fine. That drop didn't do masses, but 1 Widow Mine gets away, and it did quite a lot of mining time because we saw all of these probes having to get pulled. It used some of the Mothership Core's energy in order to try and get the Photon Overcharge down to deal with it as quickly as possible. So KrasS just asserting a bit of dominance in the game already, making sure that he's got the map control. Shana has to now do something in retaliation, be that tech up, be that get some upgrades out, or just expand. But for the moment, with Storm coming out, not going to be pushing until Storm is finished at the very earliest. Meanwhile, KrasS, missile turret, good defensive position. He hasn't yet started his 3rd orbital command, instead getting up that Ghost Academy, having seen the Templar Archives. And once you know those Templar Archives are down and your opponent is starting out with High Templar as opposed to Colossi, you've just got to get that Ghost out to start EMPing, start sniping and all those good things. Meanwhile, +1 infantry weapons nearly finished up, +2 Protoss ground armor is nearly done, +1 Protoss ground weapons not yet started, so upgrade wise a slight lead for the Protoss over the Terran, not by a huge amount but just enough to mean that actually engagements will be slightly favouring Shana as long as there's not a huge difference. But in comes a double drop now, but unfortunately as units come in, but this Nexus stimming on the Marauders, trying to get it down and will force a cancel. That was a good little win there for KrasS. He lost a couple of Marauders doing it, but both medevacs do stay alive. 100 resources worth of damage and a bit of delay on that expansion. Also a good timing push. Meanwhile, 2 more medevacs adding into this. No multi-prong harassment at the moment out of KrasS because there is a cannon down in the main base, but something that I'm keeping an eye out that he could be doing later on. He's also starting his own 3rd command center in direct response to seeing the 3rd come down from Shana. So that is all good. Nothing too surprising happening, just some more gateways being added on, which of course you definitely need if you're going for High Templar, just to get those out. We also have Charge now finished for the Zealots, so that Charge dot Storm army is going to be very, very good. Archons can morph in after the High Templar have blown all their energy. Meanwhile, for KrasS, he's starting to get the ghost count up, just ever so slowly, getting them out. His first one on the way, only producing a single one at a time though. Does have some more queued up behind this though, getting out a good number of Marauders as well though, just to give himself a well-rounded force. And he's also got the map vision and the map control. If we look at the vision for KrasS at the moment, he can see most things. He's got everything going on quite nicely, whereas for Shana, completely isolated to his base, bar that one observer that sees the Ghost Academy out. This double drop is gearing up again. It's only 5 Marauders, not both medevacs full, but could potentially do a nice little bit of damage. There are some Zealots sitting back here. Meanwhile, a drop in the main base as well is coming down. KrasS is trying to multi-prong as best he can. A couple of Zealots walking in, but that means there may not be any Zealots here to defend. Luckily, though, there is a good number, but behind the middle line, good damage being done. The main base is taking a lot of fire as well. Those Marines, those Marauders, trying to take down that forge. Do manage to do so. A storm does hit, unfortunately, but all the Marauders do stay up. Meanwhile, no units getting pulled as of yet. Shana really needs to pull back in order to deal with that. Warping in a couple more Zealots, but those Marauders doing a nice job lifting up. Most of them will get away, but that was a nice little push there out of KrasS. He managed to stop the +3 upgrades. The double forge is replacing the single one, though. It is an environmental society for buildings, and they plant 2. Every time one gets taken out, more drops trying to come down into the natural base, but pushed back by the photon overcharge. So the 4 ghosts coming out mean that actually KrasS is really getting up his ghost numbers, ready to deal with those High Templar, but he's still dropping absolutely everywhere, and I don't get a moment's rest as a caster from seeing this all go down. A double feedback does mean the medevac goes down, and that drop threat has finally gone. Another medevac apparently did not get the memo that you have to take units before you just blindly fly into your opponent. But KrasS, he doesn't mind because he's coming across the map now. He's got a couple of Vikings as well, just in case Colossus catches him by surprise. And considering the fact that the robotics bait is done now, it could be something that does come out. There aren't any on the field yet, but the first one is in production. This single medevac now doing so much. Oh my goodness, look at the Architosis pylon. KrasS, do you want to kill it? You want to kill it? Yeah, you do. No, you don't. You want to kill those probers. Meanwhile, we do see Shana trying to hold back the push at the front door. A good number of Marines and Marauders. The medevac's healing up quite nicely, but good Zealot positioning and good storms have been very effective. Marauders at the back of the natural getting cleaned up quite nicely. Stutter Step Micro coming out at the front, and already Shana is pushing back KrasS all the way past the halfway mark. More reinforcements are coming in. The Zealots are slowly dying as the Stutter Step continues. A couple of ghosts there as well. Not sniping or anything like that, just trying to do a little bit of damage. A good EMP gets all of those sentries, so no energy there for any force fields or anything like that. Meanwhile, the factory getting a bit more of a scout off. The medevac just being allowed to survive and get full vision. But with these Reapers now coming in, which is a really interesting late game choice, and the Ghost now getting some snipes off, we see that those High Templar taking out, the sentries die as well. This is some really solid play, I've got to say, out of KrasS. He's lost a similar amount to his opponent, not much difference between them. The worker count, though, is heavily in KrasS's favour. 57 probes to 72 SCVs. Looking at the workers killed, that is what makes the difference. They've been producing at the same rate, expanding at the same rate, but KrasS has just killed, so many more. A feedback went down on a medevac there, picked it off, but that's not a big loss because there was nothing in there anyway. But ultimately, KrasS slightly ahead in the supply count. His upgrades, they're slightly ahead as well. 2-1 against 0-2, but with +3 armor coming down at the same time as 3-2 upgrades for KrasS, he should be okay. And the double forge not actually being utilized, so we're not seeing that the +2 weapons have started yet, and +2 weapons hasn't yet started. It's being queued up by mistake on the other forge, so that is a bit problematic. Meanwhile, that factory is getting taken out. The Reapers just getting a little scout off, trying to do some damage. They don't really hurt much though, so aren't going to be able to do that much. But as we can see, Shana knows that all of KrasS's units are in the middle of the map with that observer, but KrasS still just pumping out, really getting a sizable force. And seeing as there's only 2 Colossi there, the 3 Vikings that are currently out should be fine, but 3 in production at a time just mean that actually KrasS is adapting his late game composition to deal and balance against the Ghost, with the Archons and also the High Templar, as well as the Vikings with the Colossi. A double expansion coming in the middle, 2 more command centers, one probably going to become a planetary fortress, one will likely become an orbital command for the Mule, but things just calming down for the moment. So we've just seen KrasS being the real dominator so far this game, the aggressor all the way through, but Shana has held it out well, but is now pushing forward with those additional Colossi. Those Ghosts get a couple of EMPs, but miss most of the High Templar, unfortunately, but we see more EMPs going down. The Zealots doing good damage, nice storms out of the Protoss player. KrasS forced back for the time being, but some more EMPs hitting, stopping any more storms happening, and with just an amazing attack arc, KrasS punches through, and there's the GG. KrasS was victorious with that last engagement, just such a better attack angle, and those Ghosts from behind. So that was KrasS. What do you think? Reckon he's got a shot at taking some of that prize money, getting up high on the rankings? Let us know in the comment section below or in the TL thread. Make sure you give this video a thumbs up and of course leave a comment and, well, subscribe to the channel because I'm going to be doing some more highlights over the coming week before I-48 and the Grand Finals in order to give you a better look at these players. Thank you for watching. I'm Madals. Make sure you check out all the ESET UK Masters social medias and we will be back very soon with some more content. Thanks for watching and bye for now.